Goodness. I'd like to call the November 16th Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. Do we have the announcements?
That's for MAPC.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. Copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available on the counter in the lobby of this conference room. The Planning Commission's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning or subdivision application and his or her representative to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the Commission may extend these times by a majority vote. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please write your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the lobby. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please sign in on that same sheet. The Planning Commission is interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available in the lobby. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct their own additional public hearings on these items.
Okay, our first item and only item is BZA 2017-00046. Do we have anyone on the commission that would like to hear that?
Yes.
We'll hear it. Please go ahead with the presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Kyle Kobe, Associate Planner. This is BZA 2017-46. It is a request to reduce the front setback in order to be able to construct a billboard. The required setback is 20 feet, and the applicant is requesting to reduce that distance to 5 feet. What you see on the screen here is a picture of the property in question. And here's an aerial view. The nature of the area is that it's industrial and commercial development. Here is like a site plan showing where the sign itself will be placed with the property line right here. So it's this setback right here that we're discussing. Here's another image just kind of to give a sense of what the sign itself will look like. Here is, I'm standing just a little bit west of where the sign would be. You're looking directly north. That's Kellogg that you're looking across right there. This is looking over at the site. The sign would be just right here in the foreground. So as you can see, it's right next to the highway there. And then this is looking west, just for some additional context. And any questions?
My questions revolve around the narrative that's in our packet, which has to do with negotiating to replace 3 signs with one with KDOT. And I'm wondering where does the city sign ordinance come into this issue, or does it? Are they completely on their own in the highway right of way, even though the sign's going to be on private property? And maybe we should ask that question to the applicant as opposed to you. What's your understanding of?
So I'll let the applicant explain a little bit more in terms of fleshing out the background details on that. The issue with this case, though, is that it is whatever agreement was made prior to this. At this point in time, what they're trying to do is just reduce that setback on the property, the private property that is there. So this won't actually be built in the right-of-way or anything like that. But in order to consolidate the signs onto that site, they've got to locate it here.
I understand our issue, but I have those other questions for my own edification. Nothing else.
Mr. Miller.
Yeah.
Talking with Jeff, it would be our opinion that KDOT cannot negotiate an agreement that would violate our sign code. I mean, they may negotiate an arrangement, but they wouldn't have the authority to authorize something that's not consistent with the sign code, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's really my question. So before they pull a permit, they're going to have to be in compliance with our sign code.
Or obtain the proper variances or adjustments, yes.
Okay.
And one of the things in the application, in the attachments for the staff report, was documentation from when they applied for a sign permit, which is what triggered this.
All right.
Any other questions for the presenter?
I've got one.
Yes, Rob?
Why can't the sign be moved back 15 feet? Why does it have to be 5 feet from the property line?
There's a building. They're basically, the property line is looking from here. The property line is, and I don't have it cited out or anything, but just for a sense of where it is, it's right here. And I can, from my understanding, is that they're kind of positioned in a way where they're not overhanging the building that's on the site by a degree to which the city would not be able to approve it. So they've got it as far away from the building as they can get it, and that requires this setback reduction.
Any other questions? Seeing none, agent or applicant?
My name is David Malhagen. I'm with Ashby Street Outdoor Advertising, formerly Clear Channel Outdoor Advertising. The part that you had a question of was the KDOT negotiation. If we could go back a couple of slides for an overview. There is a strip of land, back a little bit further. There is a strip of land.
Please use the computer mouse.
Okay, here we go.
I know.
There's a strip of land that is a rectangle shape right through here. Clear Channel Outdoor Advertising owned all of that land. This portion right here is what was left, is a portion that we're talking about. This portion right here, we had agreed to previously with the property owner about doing a trade with him. We would trade him the land, we put a billboard up on this piece of property. Okay, we had those arrangements made, and then KDOT came along and said, well, we need not only your land that's out here, but this land that's right in here. And so we worked out with KDOT and the property owner that, okay, fine, for other considerations, we'll sell you this land here, and you'll have to buy this land from the new property owner, but we still get to see about having our own billboard out there. Well, when that transpired and KDOT took the land, that all of a sudden made this lot right here a through lot. So you have a frontage on both Irving and you have frontage on Kellogg, even though Kellogg has no access. It still made it into a through lot. And so when we applied for the city permit, that's what we were told was that, well, everything is good, everything's fine, except for now, this lot is a through lot, so it has to have a BZA. So that's why we're here. Now, as far as KDOT goes, we have to get our city permit first. And then we can apply for KDOT's permit. The negotiations that we had with KDOT was monetary. you know, for the property owner, for ourselves, for everything combined for the taking. And yes, we removed 3 signs in this land in order to see about getting up 1 more sign. And we had this started prior to the KDOT taking, and so that's kind of where we're at after we had first negotiated with the property owner. We're going to put up a sign, KDOT comes through, changes up everything, and here we are. Are there any questions?
Questions for the agent? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on this subject? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. Mr. Johnson.
I move to approve per staff comments.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. We have a motion for adjournment.
Moved. Second,
Okay,
whichever.
Mr. Richardson and Mr. Green. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let me correct, it was 10-0 vote. All right, at this time, we're adjourned. Is that okay? Okay. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting of the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, November 16th, to order. We have minutes from September 21st. Should we do those individually? Okay. Do we have a motion on the September 21st?
Moved. Second.
Get those. Mr. McKay,
I think I've got to abstain. I don't think I was here for that meeting.
okay. Mr. Green. Who do we have abstaining? Secretary.
Bill?
Bill was the only one absent, it said.
Don wasn't here yet, right? So we have Bill and Don abstaining. Okay. Do we have a motion? And we had a first and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So it's 8-0-2. Okay, now we have the October 5th, 2017 minutes.
Move we approve.
Second.
Mr. McKay and Ms. Miles
Have to abstain.
I'm abstaining. I was gone that day.
and Don,
And you were, oh, for the, wait a minute, for which?
October 5th.
October 5th. No, I was here.
It says
I was gone
you were at, yeah.
because it was my birthday.
Yeah.
It's Joe and
Yeah.
And Sylvia forgot. Getting eye surgery.
How many? Yeah, that's right. It was eye surgery. Who abstained? 3. Okay. All right. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so it's 7-0-3. All right, moving on to the first subdivision committee recommendation items. Let's go to 00035, final plat. Anybody would like to hear that? Anybody in the audience like to talk on that one? Okay, we'll take it by consent. 00042, Farmington Square, 3rd edition. Anybody like to hear that on the commission? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wish to hear that? Okay, we'll take that by consent. Subdivision 00045, one-step final plat, Castlegate, 2nd edition. Anybody in the commission like to hear that one? Seeing none, anyone in the audience? Okay, we'll take that by consent. 00046, one-step final plat, Ross Omo, 1st edition. Anybody in the commission like to hear that one? Anybody in the audience wish to hear that? Okay. We can take 2-1 through 2-4 by consent. If we
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Green, Ms. Miles. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 10-0. Moving right along. Now we'll go to vacation items. Item 3-1, 00041. Anyone on the commission like to hear that one? Anybody in the audience wish to hear that item? We'll take that by consent. Vacation 2017-00042. Anybody in the commission like to hear that one? Anyone in the audience wish to hear that item? Okay, we'll take that by consent. We could have a motion for 3-1 and 3-2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Andy made the motion, Rob seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 10-0. Okay, our first case is 2017-00036. Who's presenting that one? Oh, yeah, we got it. Thank you. I was on a roll there. Anyone in the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing that, you want to hear it?
I have a couple questions.
Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to hear that item? Okay, we will we'll allow Mr. Green to ask the questions. Yeah. Let's go on to 2017 quadruple 07. Anybody in the commission wish to hear that one? Anybody in the audience wish to hear that? We'll take that by consent. Next item is a PUD 2017 quadruple 08. Anyone in the commission like to hear that one?
I would.
Hear that. And then our last one, I think, is zoning case 00031 and CUP 00038. Anybody on the commission want to hear that one? We'll hear that. Okay, so if we could have a motion, we're going to hear it. So the only one we have here to approve by consent is quadruple 07.
Who we approve?
Second.
Who had the second? Okay, Mr. Green, Rob, okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 11-0. Notice how I picked that up. Huh? All right. Now, we could go to 00036 for a presentation. A couple
You
questions.
just had a couple of questions.
Okay. Let's see if we can get by with a couple questions.
Okay.
Mr. Green.
Yeah, I was looking over this. The only concern that I had with recreational vehicles there, under the definition for recreational vehicles, it includes, well, I guess for a recreational vehicle campground and recreational vehicle, it includes tents and camping trailers, which I'm assuming that, well, I guess a fabric-sided camping trailer and houseboats. And I don't know that that's something that we would necessarily want to have in a mobile home park, having a houseboat and or fabric-sided camping trailers. Am I reaching here?
I don't believe that the zoning administrator would rule that a houseboat is a recreational vehicle.
Well, by definition, a houseboat is included in the
Well, it says temporary or transient living purposes.
Well, I'm just looking on page 3 of the handout that we had.
Yeah, that's where I'm reading the definition. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah.
houseboats and or.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Well, if you wanted to eliminate those, certainly you could, as part of the conditional use approval, you could restrict those.
And Other than that, I don't have any real
Okay.
issue with this request. So I would be willing to make that motion
All
to
right.
approve with other
good time.
questions.
I guess the question is the applicant here?
Any other questions?
You might ask them if they have an issue, yeah.
Questions? Okay. Agent or applicant? That be okay with you?
Good afternoon. Will Clevenger with Garver here on behalf of the applicant. And no, your question is there is no problem with excluding soft-sided recreational vehicles or boats from being allowed. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any other questions for the applicant or agent, I assume? Seeing none, we'll go out for public comment. Anyone from the public like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for action. Mr. Green.
I would move that we approve the request, including a condition that would limit soft-sided camping trailers and houseboats.
Put 'em, right? Do we have a second?
Second.
Richardson, okay. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 11-0. Thank you, Mr. Green. Next item is quadruple 08. And who's presenting that one? Miller.
Were there specific questions, or did you want to hear the whole thing?
What's that?
I'd like to hear the whole thing.
Mr.
Okay.
Green? Oh, Rob said he'd like to hear the whole thing.
What this is a church that's on B multifamily zone property. You can see here it's on 11th Street on the west side of Minnesota. And they want to build or have built a multi-use addition to the church, and that as part of the multi-use addition, it would not only be for worship services, but also for recreational, educational, and training facilities. And so in order to accommodate that, since it wouldn't be restricted to just church activities, or at least that was our initial understanding, that we suggested that they do the PUD. However, as we went along and worked on the report, you can see that there were a number of items that needed to be adjusted in order to make this work. And so there are 8 things listed on page 2 in terms of reducing setbacks and increasing size of ground signs, permitting a digital sign, those sorts of things. And then number 8, it is restricted, that all these activities are restricted to being part of the church or a place of worship. So they can't rent it out to a third party and then have the third party operate the activities that are permitted. And so that was the intent there. And with that, I try and answer questions. The agent is here and can answer specific questions, but we were trying to accommodate the church's expanded mission with this PUD.
Questions for the presenter. Rob?
Where would they be allowed to put the digital sign?
I'm sorry?
There's a digital sign mentioned. Where would they be allowed to locate that? And how big can it be?
Let's see if that's identified anywhere on the... I don't know, Greg, is that identified anywhere that maybe it'd be better to let the applicant address that than...
Any other questions for the presenter? Mr. Green?
I not only had a concern about the digital sign in a predominantly residential area, but I was also concerned about allowing a gravel parking lot in this area also. I would not be in favor of that.
Any other questions?
Got a question?
My understanding was they're asking for a waiver on the landscaping and, or the landscaping that's there to act as, to be sufficient. And after viewing the property, I'm not sure that really meets the needs of the neighborhood to be screened or sheltered from the activities going on there.
Dale, in terms of a gravel parking lot, does the city have standards that has to meet if it's gravelled, or?
Yes, the zoning code, if it's not a single-family or two-family residential use, typically asphalt or concrete or whatever asphaltic concrete is, I've never figured out what that is, but it lists it, is what's required for all multifamily and non-single family and duplex uses. We're getting more and more requests to be allowed to use gravel in the city, and so as part of this, we threw it in as part of the PUD. Since they were doing a PUD, it allows them to design the request as they think it works best for them. And I'd let Greg speak to the issues on that.
But the city doesn't have a standard for gravel parking lots. Is that
No,
right?
the standard is that that you can only use gravel for single family or duplex, and then it needs to be paved with either asphalt or concrete.
We don't have any standard. It says if we allow gravel, essentially go out and park on grass. I mean,
no, I think it would have to.
What's the standard for a gravel lot is my question. Are there construction standards that have to be met, et cetera, et cetera?
I'm not sure I know.
Okay.
I know when we go look at it, we're gonna know whether it's gravel or not gravel. But
some sort of all-weather gravel.
Yeah, you can't park on grass.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a civil engineer on the board here. You want to attempt that, Mr. Green? Okay. All right. Any other questions for the presenter? Seeing none, agent or applicant? Looks like we have an agent. Mr. Ferris, welcome to the podium.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Greg Ferris. I represent the Iasis Christian Church, who owns this property and who is in the process of constructing a building that can reach out into the neighborhood and have some real benefit to this area. I was approached by some friends of the church and asked them if I might try to help them through this process. We initially looked at it, and frankly, the gravel parking lot is an important component of this because the city is requiring so much more parking than is needed by the church that for them to pave as much as the city requires becomes cost prohibitive. Because the building is a big building, that means you have to have lots of parking. That's just the way the city operates. And I understand that. And when we met with Mr. Miller and the planning department and tried to figure out a way to do it differently, they said the only way you can really do that is a PUD. So we believe that this, because of what this building is doing for the community, and because really we don't probably need much more parking than we already have, we're only doing it to meet a code that the city has because they don't have anything that just says, well, just because it's a big building and it's a, that the church, people that are already parked there in the church are going to be able to use that. Because if you think about when we're not in church, which is when we have the most people, and they've been using their facility for a number of years, the days and evenings where they might have a bitty basketball that comes there and is able to use their facility so they can have some neighborhood kids and keep them off the street, which is what their goal is. Their goal is to use this facility to uplift the neighborhood and to make it a better neighborhood. But in those days, the church people aren't parking in the lot they already have. So we didn't think there was even a need for the parking lot. It was really no way to get around not having the parking lot. The only thing they could afford is this type of parking lot. So this was the compromise we reached with the planning department, was that we would do a gravel lot. that will probably have very little use, if any. And yes, there are standards. You have to use a low dust gravel, for example. That's one of the requirements of a gravel parking lot in the city. So we will have a low dust parking structure there, parking lot there that won't have issues in the neighborhood. There won't be a lot of cars parked there because the front door is where the asphalt parking lot is. So we believe that what we're asking for is reasonable and is really necessary for them to be able, because frankly what will happen is they have a very nice building that is about 3/4 done. I've been over there watching and they will have a very exciting ability to do things for that neighborhood. If they're required to put a paved parking lot in, the city will not allow them to open that door. They will not be able to pave that parking lot because they don't have the extra $70,000 that parking lot will cost to be paved. So this is really kind of an important issue, and I understand that we don't love to do these, and that's why it's required to go through a very onerous step like this to allow a gravel parking lot. But the reason that a gravel parking lot should be allowed here are really a few reasons. One, it's not going to be used very much. It's not really the primary parking lot. There is no reason for anybody to park there because that's not the front door. That's the first reason. The second reason is we can't open that building if we can't have the parking that the city requires. And that would be a shame for that neighborhood not to be able to utilize that building. Most of the people that are going to use that building are going to be walking over from the neighborhood, kids coming over. They want to be the church that reaches into the neighborhood and helps kids and helps those in need with the pantry and those kind of things. You're not going to need a lot of parking for that. In regard to the landscaping, we're not asking that the landscape not be, when we're actually adding more landscaping that is there. We have counted the number and added a number, and so we will have there really is quite a bit of landscaping that's required if you look. We just thought we didn't need to go to the extent that the landscape code required based on the size of that building again. So we think that what we're having, what's there on the north side is already a lot, and we're planting some more. But there are bushes that are required, there are trees that are required, and those will be planted. So we're not asking that we waive the landscape ordinance completely. We're only asking that we reduce it to a number that is really more representative of what this area is and what should be allowed based on what the use really is. Having said all that, I'll see my clock anywhere anymore. It used to be in front of, oh, thank you, over there. I have a couple more minutes. I'll just briefly go through. We think this complies with the requirements in the zoning code for the approval of a PUD. I think I've shown that and demonstrated how we meet the requirements. You can see that I believe I didn't see anybody that was here in opposition to this. And the reason is that the neighbors recognize that this is a very exciting thing, that they can have an opportunity to be able to come over to that church and be a part of that. And then the church sees that as a reach into the neighborhood. Regarding the digital sign, I put that in there. We're allowed that. You can do that anyway. You don't have to have that in the PUD. If we took it out and said just per code, digital signs in churches are allowed. And this is a 50 square foot sign, so it's very small. I don't know that they're ever going to do that, but when you do a PUD, you try to put in that everything that you can, because if you don't put it in there, you have to come back and get it changed later, because it's not like the zoning ordinance where it's just in there. The PUD is the zoning ordinance for this property, so that's why it's in there. But the sign code allows churches to do digital signs if it's not more than a certain percentage of that sign, and so that's all we're asking is to be allowed to do that. It's not a big deal. If that's a real heartburn for y'all, it's not a big deal for us. Parking lot is a big deal, however. It's very important. It's really the only way they can open that building is if that parking lot is gravel. And at some point in time, as you know, as they continue to work, they'll want to pave that parking lot. That would be their desire, but you know, they spent a lot of money on this building, and they spent it for that neighborhood. They spent it as a part to be a real important part of that community, and they just cannot afford to do that gravel parking lot. with that, Pastor Vanish here from the church, if you have specific questions of how they operate and what they want to do in that community, and I'll stand for questions.
Mr. Ferris, would they consider maybe paving the first 3 parking spaces on each side back to the building setback line, and then transitioning to gravel so that any single-family houses on the other side doesn't have the dust problem?
We would prefer, and it'd be easier because that's a little hard to do. Just take those parking out. We don't think we need that much parking anyway, so we would rather that there be no parking in the setback. And I think we would agree, and that would be quite a ways back from, and I have no problem with that, and that makes some sense.
Question for the agent, Bill.
It's been a while since I was over there. But I think there's a number of non-paved streets in that area.
There are some, yes. Both of these streets, though, however, are paved. But there are a lot of non-paved streets. Yes, you're right.
Non-paved streets.
And those aren't dust controlled, by the way.
No. In this facility, is there going to be new restrooms?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, there's restrooms in the facility.
I guess what I want to tell the commission, I'm familiar with this project. We looked at it, was not successful in being the contractor, so I didn't receive any money for it. But the church is a very nice group. They the facility they got is not in the best of shape. I like the idea of this where they're going to get some kids there, but the other thing is it's going to be up to date restrooms and other facilities to take care of this, so it's a real plus. So I just want everybody to know that.
Any other questions for the agent? Mr. Blake?
Hey, Greg, I had a question. Over on the site plan, over on the east side, there's an entrance up at the top. It looks like you guys are widening that entrance. Is that correct? Because from what's there existing, that's kind of like an old entrance, and the one on the south looks like a newer entrance that's been widened. On your map, it shows it's widened the same distance from the one on the south, and I just wanted to make sure if that's
the one on the north is not widened.
It's not, okay.
It's not a new entrance, and we're asking for the entrances to remain as they are. We believe they functioned for that lot, and we don't think we need to add anything.
Okay. And then pretty much since that's the east side, that's where all of that's the front of the church where everybody's going to be coming in. You have handicap in the front. Everything's already marked, all that stuff. So
the handicap, I don't believe, is marked to code, and we will be doing that as part of the PUD.
Okay, great.
And that is a requirement and it will be only on the paved area, the handicap. Okay. And there is no reason for them to park in the back because all of the handicap access entrances are easily accessed to the front, so there would be no reason for them to go to the back, both the church and the new facility.
On the south side, on the south side there, the entrance that you're talking about where it's going to be the gravel, there's also another entrance on that right next door to that. Is that going to maintain that entrance also? Because I think that's where they're driving up to park their cars into like a little shelter area or something like that.
On the south?
Yeah, on the south. Probably, it looks like maybe about 50 foot from that entrance on the west side of the building. There's another entrance over there.
On the new building?
Yes.
And
or no, it's on the existing. Sorry, on the south side.
Talking about on 11th Street?
I don't see that on the site plan. Is there a door on the?
Oh, a driveway.
It's a driveway.
Oh! I'm sorry. I thought you meant. Yeah, there is a driveway there. You don't use that driveway. We're planting trees in front of it. It will not be an active driveway.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Mr. Ferris, a couple of questions under the heading of background number 8 there, just to make sure. I asked the staff about this, and I think we're in agreement that would say that the recreation, entertainment, all those uses would be allowed, all of those only as a part of a church or place of worship.
The only thing, and how you specify that, I have a little question. For example, if we wanted to have Biddy basketball over there one evening, well, the church isn't sponsoring that team, but the kids from the neighborhood to come over and play, how does that work, and what Mr. Miller was talking about? I'm not sure I completely understand. I understand you don't want us to rent the facility and say, okay, we've built this really nice facility. We don't have any parking. We don't have, but we're renting that to you now, and it's now your facility, and the church isn't using it anymore.
My concern is that were it to be sold, for whatever reason, now we have an event center and all these things in the neighborhood, it would not be appropriate.
Absolutely no problem with language to that effect.
Yeah, how we word that to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think that's your intent. That's my
That is
question.
definitely the intent. We have no problem whatsoever, as long as, on a Wednesday night, if we wanted to have some kids over, and we could do that.
Sure, I get that. And the other one was the staff was recommending smaller signs. Do you have a comment? Are you okay with that?
We don't agree with that, but we weren't going to fight that.
Okay.
We think that that's a large building, and a little bit more signage would be helpful. But I didn't press the issue.
Okay, all right. I had one other question for staff, and that was we reference a BZA case. And I don't ever remember hearing that. It's referenced on February 6th, which is a Monday. I don't know whether that's germane to this or not. Under case history, we say it was a BZA in 2017. Maybe first of all, there wasn't a meeting on the 6th. Secondly, what actually happened, and just so we get the reference right.
Yeah, that was an administrative adjustment. It didn't come to the BZA. It was handled by staff. Yeah.
Bailey.
Can I ask Dale a question about the PUD? Since it is a PUD, are we allowed to make an adjustment on the parking at the time of approval?
Yes, yeah, you can tweak it however you think that it's reasonable.
Oh, and is there a way that in the future, if there is evidence that they need more parking, then they do have to pave it? Is there some way that can be worked?
I think that would be problematic. I don't know how you'd do that.
Questions? Mr. Green.
I just have a couple of thoughts. One is, if you're considering putting a digital ground sign in, I think your money would be better spent putting in a parking lot, because they're going to cost about the same. But more importantly, the approaches that are going into the unpaved parking lot there on the east, those will more than likely have to be paved off of a paved city street, wouldn't they?
Absolutely.
And they're shown to be, I think your little hatching on there appears to be that indicates gravel or unpaved.
Well, anything in the city right away has to be paved. I mean, so I don't know how it's shown, and I'll talk to make sure it's shown properly. But there's no way that there's no way the city will allow you to do anything other than paving into the city right away.
That would be the major concern that I would have with that.
And I have no problem if you want to add that as part of the PUD, and I'll make sure that Baughman gets that information. That's certainly reasonable, but it's also going to happen. It has to, because the city would never allow me to do that.
I would think that I would think that those handicap stalls that you are indicating on the east side of the building should be paved, but I don't know that
they are paved. That whole lot is paved.
On the
East, everything on the east side is
on the
paved
east
today.
side of the building. Is
Yes,
paved.
that is currently paved and will remain paved. That's what they've had for a number of years. They have 67 parking spaces, I believe, there.
It's the west side that's not.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the hatching on here is opposite of what I'm thinking.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, okay.
But yes, you're correct. The only non-paved is on the west side of the building. The east side is currently paved and would remain paved.
Gotcha. Okay.
Dale, I have a question. With the administrative adjustment, which reduced the parking spaces from 87 to 66, where were those 66 located?
In the paid parking area on the east side.
Yeah, it adds up to 66.
They may have had off-site parking may have been available, but as part of the administrative adjustment, they would have submitted a site plan showing where all the parking would be.
Guess it could have been where the new building is.
No, that was grass. In fact, they didn't own that at the time. So it was not where the new building is, and that you're right. He is right. That was through allowed agreements, those kind of things that were.
It's still in place?
As far as I know, yes. You still have all the parking that you've always had. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none,
Thank you. I'll stand by in case you have any others.
anybody in the audience wish to speak? And then we'll bring it back to the commission.
I'd like to talk more about parking with Dale. Is there some way on the PUD that they could pave some of that second lot that they want to be gravel, and if they ever need or want to enlarge it, then it has to be paved? Is there some way to work that?
Well, the PUD is limited to this site plan, and so if they were expanding or adding parking, they'd have to adjust or amend the site plan, if that's what you mean.
I mean, in the future, like 5 years from now, if they required more parking.
Then they would have to come in and adjust or amend this, and as part of that adjustment or amendment, then one could attach paving or waive paving as part of that deal.
We could require part of that lot, well, just a portion of it to be used and the rest of it grass on this part.
Well, no, staff wouldn't support grass as a parking surface
no,
at all.
It wouldn't be, it would be grass and no parking on it, but just half of the spaces. Is that allowable?
I guess if you felt like that there was more, that we were requiring more spaces than they need as part of the PUD, you could reduce the number of spaces they have to provide and address it that way. If I don't know how many they think they're going to need, but certainly you can reduce the number of required off-street parking spaces as part of the PUD.
That's what I was getting at.
And we don't have any problem if you want to do that and bring the parking, say, back as was suggested by the chairman, and then reduce it from the north, and then say that that's grass. And in the event that ever parking was needed, it'd have to be paved. We have no problem with that, if you want to do that.
Yeah, and you would have to come back.
Absolutely. We have no problem with that.
For paving. Okay.
Ms. Miller?
What is the
Stevens.
projected occupancy for the buildings? We're talking about parking spaces, and we really haven't addressed how many people can actually be there.
Well, the legal occupancy is ridiculous because they do that based on the size of the building. We don't ever anticipate. Did they give you as an occupancy? Come up here. And I've failed to give my name. My name is Greg Ferris. I apologize. This is Pastor Van, the pastor of the church. What did they tell you the occupancy of that building?
Occupancy rate with tables and chairs was like 390, somewhere around there in that particular building.
That's what the city has determined the occupancy is. Our occupancy level is not anything in that ballpark. We don't believe that there will ever be, the need for that many people in that building. So they do it based on the size. The city does, and that's where the parking comes from. That's where the parking requirement came from, was the size of the building. And so we don't have any problem thinking that, you know, if they have 150 people in that building, that would be a lot of people in that building.
Well, you were addressing neighborhood sports events and stuff, and families tend to turn out for those sorts of things.
We're not talking about, you know, competition, because they're not putting bleachers in or anything like that. We are talking about, you know, where if the Biddy basketball team needed a place to practice and come and have a pickup game there or a practice game there, and I don't even know if Biddy's even around. I'm an old guy. I don't know what they call it these days. So that's what we were talking about. Yeah, the facility is not laid out as a gymnasium where you have bleachers and those kind of things. There will be a basketball court in there where kids can come and play. And so if that happened, you know, there might be 50 people in there. That's not very many when you have 80, 70 parking spaces. So we don't think that, you know, and then what is a normal church service for you?
Average attendance, you mean?
Yeah.
About 75.
So 75 to 100 people on a church service, you know, that's what's using that today. You know, there may be some special Easter Sunday event where they have, you know, some of us are guilty of not going to church as often as we should, so there might be 130 or 40 people that day on that Sunday. And you know what? The city code requires you to build a parking lot for that day. And we just don't think that that's feasible or reasonable. So that's more the capacity is what, you know, is there, and what the church anticipates, you know, their utilization of that. And they would like to grow, obviously. They believe that that's going to happen to some degree. But the main thing is for, you know, is during the week, they will have, for example, a food pantry. Well, people will walk to that, or they will drop, but you're not going to have 100 cars there for a food pantry. The day that they have the most people at that facility is Sunday morning. It's not going to change. It's always been that way. The use of this building is not going to create, you know, a doubling or tripling of that church, because they're not adding on to the church itself with the pews and those kind of things. So, but the city does occupancy based on square footage, and that's how many doors you have to have and all those other things.
What sort of training providing?
Well, they're hoping to do some, let's say that somebody wanted to come in and do a job training seminar for the neighborhood. They thought this would be a good place in the middle of that neighborhood to be able to do something like that. They don't have anything right now. I sat down with them. I said, what would you like to see that facility be able to be used for? Again, because it's a PUD, we have to put whatever in here we think. They may never do that, but it has to be in here if they ever thought they were going to do. And they would love to do that. They would love to have, you know, somebody come in and say, you know, we've got 20 jobs and we're going to come in and do a little training here, something like that. They think that's a benefit to that neighborhood, and that's what their goal is. So those kind of things.
Has this case gone before the DAB?
It goes to the DAB December 4th. Thank you.
Question. Greg, on the site plan there, the number of spaces, the 24 are already paved, is that right? When we say we were going to...
Yeah, it's probably just a few more than that, but yeah, those are paved. Yes, sir.
Where the gravel spaces would be, right? Just so
that's
I'm
correct.
Understanding.
And if you wanted to reduce that down to, you know, 12,000 square feet, we're okay with that. And that no gravel can be in the setback. We have no problem with that.
Yeah,
and that gets to Mr. Daly's point, and that in the future, if we ever needed to, you know, then yes, we would have to come back and get that.
It would seem to me if you're going to pave that lot, you just ought to be able to do the whole thing in gravel, not have to come back here. I mean, if you need that space, I don't see why you'd have to come back here if we're going to allow gravel parking in that area to have that. So essentially, as I understand it, you could come with that as on the drawing in gravel, and that's all you could do until you came back with an amendment to the site plan.
Correct.
Right. So to me, I think that's reasonable. I don't think we should restrict it at this point.
Greg, you said something I'm not sure you meant. You were not proposing to pave the entry drive, were you not?
Oh, we know we're paving. They're paved now on the east side, are already paved.
On the west side, if we redo, you said you wouldn't do anything any gravel in the setback, but I don't think you meant that.
Well, no, you had asked about not having any parking in that setback.
Right, but you got to get there.
Oh, I got you. I understand. Yes, I apologize. Yes, but the as far as any of the city right of way, that's going to have to be paved.
Driveway is?
In the city right of way, absolutely. The drive in off the street will definitely have to be paved.
Thank you for clarification, Mr. Green.
No, we've had a lot of conversation on the parking, and I apologize for not looking closely at the hatching and the non-hatched areas with the parking lots. But I would note that I think there is a substantial amount of on-street parking available around this church. And I would imagine that there'll be any given Sunday that there's a lot of street parking, the streets.
Well, as all of us, even though we have other agreements, they always park to the closest place they can. So if they can park on the street, they do.
I think it's important to let the record show that there was no opposition expressed at this meeting from the audience. Mr. Blick.
I take the motion to approve staff's recommendation for the project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Ms. Miller-Stevens?
So what is the parking that we're asking for?
The only parking they reduced was the parking in the setback on the west side. A drive going back to the setback line, and they got parking from there on, which is gravel.
So is that the 66 or the 87?
That's not relevant to this side, I don't believe. It was administrative change. Was that for this side as well, Dale?
Correct. It was for the this application area. Yes.
So it would reduce it 6 more, so go to 60.
No.
If we ask them to do that.
I'm just curious because up at the top they're saying reduce it to I thought they were asking to reduce it to 24 to the existing. So I was just wanting clarification. How many parking spots are we going to end up with?
Actually, ma'am, what we had done, rather than go by a specific number, we'd gone to a square footage. The parking on the east side is paved. It will remain paved. Parking on the west side, and we just, you don't see in the PUD, the number was in that BZA. That's not really pertinent anymore. We're talking about total square footage of parking versus, and when I had Boffman calculate it, they used whatever was appropriate for the amount of ground there to do square footage versus number of spaces.
Okay.
So we're not talking about quote unquote numbers of spaces of parking. We're talking about the square footage, and then you could divide that by whatever and get, so that's where we've gone instead of the other. And so you probably need to reduce that to 18,000 instead of 20,000 based on eliminating that area, or 17,000.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 11-0. Okay. Item number 7, which is 00031 for zoning and 00038 for CUP.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kathy Morgan for the Planning Department. This is a rezone and an amendment to DP 59. And as you can see on the map, it is currently zoned TF3 the parcel outlined here was the original parcel 9. The amendment is addressing this to divide that into 3 parcels, 9A, 9B, and 9C. Let's see if I've got okay, here we go. 9A will remain TF3, so only 9B and 9C are being changed, and 9B is being requested to be changed to general commercial, and then 9C is being requested to change to MF18. This property is adjacent to the big ditch. It's not part of the big ditch. I just wanted to make that clear. And the replat of parcel 9, I believe, has been, let's see here, I lost that, I'm sorry, is scheduled for hearing if it has not already been heard by the subdivision committee. So one of the issues is having access into parcel 9B, and as you can see from the CUP, there was complete access across here, and as part of that replat, there is now a 30-foot right in, right out access into this parcel. Farmington Square, as you can see, this is, as I said, this is just original parcel 9. It includes, it's about 66 acres. That includes TF3, multifamily, LC, and GC zoning. The conformance to plans and policies, this area is identified. Let me go back one. As you can see in this area, we do have commercial development as well as multifamily development, so it is in conformance with the community investments plan. The recommendation of staff was to approve the requested zone change and the CUP amendment based on the Farmington Square 3rd edition approved plat case subdivision 2017-42. This area, let me go through some of the pictures. This is looking north. This would be parcel 9B at this area. This is looking south toward the southeast at the site from the north side of Central. Again, this is where some of the residential, duplex residential is developed currently. Looking southwest at the site, this building is a vacant restaurant, was a vacant restaurant use. These are office buildings. Parking, again, the property that we're talking about would be to the east of this commercial area, and there again you can see the contour of the property for development. Looking northeast, Shade Lane, sorry. This is, Shade Lane is in this location, and I'm looking northeast back towards Central Avenue on this photograph. Looking west from the site, again, this is Winterset. You see the commercial development, limited commercial development from this against the site. And so staff is recommending approval of the zone change and the CUP amendment with the condition, as I said, that it matches the Farmington Square 3rd edition replat. And I'll answer any questions.
Questions?
Kathy, do you have the existing zoning map available you can put up there?
Yes. Okay.
And the
So
yellow.
this is existing,
And that is.
and this piece outlined in the blue color, light blue color, is that is the parcel 9 that they're asking to replat and rezone.
And that's currently
TF3.
That's duplex zoning now, and they're asking to go to multifamily 18. Is that right?
MF 18 down in this portion.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So go to the.
I understand.
Okay, so this, if you follow this dark line all the way down to here, 9C is approximately little over 2 acres that would be rezoned to MF 18. And then 9B is 2.9 acres that is being requested to be rezoned to GC. And then 9A will remain TF3.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the presenter? Seeing none, agent or applicant?
Going the wrong way, sorry. What do you want up, the zoning map?
That's good.
Tim Austin with Call Valley Engineering as agent for the applicant, and just kind of a
address, please.
Quick visual deal. We're in agreement with, do you need the address too? Oh, okay, sorry, Joe. 200 North Emporia, Suite 100. Just for clarification, the GC is just for this part, and the MF's here, and you can see we have some MF 18 here, some TF3, LC up here, and then some GC over here. Just kind of familiarize yourself with it, but generally we're in agreement with staff comments and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the agent, Mr. Rob?
Is any of this area in the floodplain?
Some of the areas in the floodplain. One of the things we talked about at subdivision committee last week was, as you are probably aware, Mr. Hartman, the flood maps have changed significantly, and this is one of the locations. So all those lots that are proposed to being created by the plat and zoning are buildable lots. So they have the one along Central. Let me get the one along Central has a little bit of floodplain on it, but it's about a foot depth, so it can be filled and removed. The one that's for the multifamily has very little floodplain on it. It's has some 500-year, but has very little 100-year. So it's basically a buildable lot once the plat's recorded.
Yes, Mr. Blick.
First, when I first seen it, I was like, "You buying some beachfront property, Tim, or is it?"
I've got some for you, Mr. Blick.
With that creek and the major utilities up above, at first
Yep.
I had concern, but then I looked at the property to the north, central, and it's exactly the same thing. So I really didn't see any major.
That's correct. Thank you.
Any other questions for the agent? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take comments from the audience. Who would like to go first? Assuming there aren't any. Okay. Please state your name and address.
Oh, come up here, Frank. It worked earlier.
Go back to the part where you have like the 9A, 9B, 9C, because we didn't have that access.
Okay, this?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Frank Vogel. Me and my wife live at 2126 West Manhattan. We are owners of 6725 North Shade Lane, number 1104, which happens to be one of the one of the units that is up against this area over here.
And these units are not
Let's have. Can we have your
units are
wife's
not
name, please?
Do what?
Can we have your wife's name if she's.
My name is Elizabeth Vogel. I'm the legal owner of the property. These owners are not duplexes. They are condos owned by individuals.
Excuse me just a second.
Yes.
Do you wish each to speak for 3 minutes?
I don't know. Yes.
Okay, let's just have one at a time then.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dave.
These units are owned by individuals, and so we bought this property on the understanding that, well, it backs up to the big ditch. So building commercial, even like multifamily area behind that, has a significant impact on my real estate and what I'm going to be able to do with that real estate. Depending on what kind of apartments go back there. Also depending on, I bought the property myself because it backs up to the big ditch and I have a beautiful view. We used to watch beavers in our backyard. So it has a different effect. So I have no problem with the rezoning of 9A and 9B. I do have a problem with the rezoning of 9C. My property value, the fact that I have a tenant that lives in that area that will be disrupted by any construction that is right there. I believe it's like 20 feet away from our property. So
She said all I had to say.
You can have 3 minutes.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions for the presenters? Seeing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Ann Smith. My home residence is 1388 North Crestline in Wichita, Kansas. I have been the property accounts manager for Woodland Heights Homeowners Association for 21 years, so I think I know a little bit about this property. When I got this notice, I was very, very upset for the people that own the units there. The first issue that I have is I think that the area itself is being overpopulated with rental properties, with apartments. Now, somebody's pockets are going to get padded and the city's going to get tax money. I understand big business. But the thing is, one of the issues we have is a traffic issue. Even now, they put in duplexes across the street to the north of our property. That has caused more traffic. We have had the mailboxes that sit on Shade Lane, all of the mailboxes for all 86 units, wiped out several times since I have been there. Shade Lane has become a speedway. We've had our split rail fence, which, by the way, we can't get the type of fence anymore, taken out at least 6 times since I have managed this property. On Shade and Parr. Parr is just west of our property. That is just one issue. I don't know if you're aware of it, but we also have a homeless issue in that area, which a developer, if you want to be aware, you'll be closer to the homeless issue than we will be. You will be blocked off of it, hopefully, but with the homeless issue that lives under the bridges, and we've seen tents pitched by the big ditch and in the big slough area, or slough, however you say it. We've had a crime rate increase. We've had burglaries, break-ins. Drugs have become a big issue in that area. So you're going to bring in more people in an overpopulated area, which started out being a residential area built in 1983 and 84 by Needens and Frank Schulte. As far as the landscaping goes, yes, we back up behind the big ditch. We have done our darndest to maintain the natural look. Why do you think it was called Woodland Heights to begin with? Because of the wooded area. Every time I have to take out a tree, I pay for it from the owners, yelling and screaming, because they like the area because of the natural aesthetic view. We also, with that, we have a natural habitat of animals. And this summer, twice, we had a 8-foot snake removed.
Would you like one more minute?
Yes, I would. Could I have that?
Any objection? Yes.
Thank you. My main concern is the value, the traffic, the overcongestion. Try to get on to Central from this area now is a nightmare. You have to turn right most of the time and then go around and turn left to head back west. The YMCA sits right over there. There's kids that play soccer and football and all of that all the time. What about the safety of these kids with more population? And in my opinion, the commercial area has gotten depressed in that area. So we're going to bring in more commercial area that's right next to the bridge that goes over the big ditch on Central. I don't know where the planners are coming up thinking this is a good idea, but you're just going to have more and more and more and more traffic issues, as well as crime and overpopulation, and it's also going to decrease the value of the people that own these units. Any questions?
Questions?
Yes.
Can you show on the map there what area that you're responsible for?
Where do I move the? Okay, the area I'm talking about, this is the 100 building, the 500 building, there's a 700 building, 900 building, 1100 building, 1300 building. So we have 86 units, and out of this development in 9C is going to impact 36 owners directly. The view, I mean, when they built the monsters across the street that I now call them on Central, I'm thinking, why are we building so many apartments when I can drive around in my neighborhood and there's houses for rent everywhere? It's amazing. So I don't get it.
Hartman?
Well, isn't the area behind you, hasn't it always been zoned for duplex?
We're not duplex. We're condominiums, and they're
you.
two-story. The majority of them are two-story. So the people that live behind, that back up to the big ditch, they have the patio door that looks out the back, and then their upstairs balcony looks out the back.
But the way it is today, that whole area would be parcel 9, isn't it? Zoned for duplexes?
This up here is zoned for commercial as well as this.
That's what they're proposing.
I think the 9C needs to not be approved because that directly, and I mean, it's like you're taking and just going to put cockroaches all together. What are we thinking, people? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So if we didn't change the zoning on this, would you be okay with somebody just coming in and putting duplexes there?
No. We don't want any duplexes at 9C at all. Okay, he just said lakefront property or beachfront property. This is what these people bought these units for. Now all of a sudden, and we don't know what's going to be between their building and the big ditch. And also, they tell you there's no water issue there. Oh, yes, there is. The big slough, however you say it, it always has water in it. We have a drainage right in front of the 1300 building that I have to have cleaned out 3 to 4 times a year because it backs up. It's supposed to go into the big slough. Now, where's that going to go?
Any other questions?
I got a question.
Mr. Richardson.
Do you realize that 9C, absent anything we do here, is already zoned for duplexes, and they could get a building permit today to build on that lot? We're not taking it from no building.
No, it's being changed. It's being changed to a multifamily 18, which we don't know what that is.
I understand, but what you're saying is you would prefer nothing be built. But
keep it natural.
But it's already zoned. It already is zoned for duplexes. They have the right to build duplexes today.
We were never informed that that land was for sale.
Well, it doesn't make a difference.
If we would have known that, we would have bought it.
Well, but I just want you to understand it's already zoned for duplexes. And
well, whoever the builder is or whoever owns the land or whatever, they need to rethink it because it's not going to, this whole area is so congested now. I live out west. I know. I've lived out there since 1974.
Daily.
So if you knew it was for sale, you would have bought it?
We would have bought it.
So if the owner now is willing to sell it to you at the price whatever, you arrange, would you be willing to buy it, pay taxes on it, upkeep and all that?
Board? Yeah, if we need to talk to him about it, we will.
Well, and you can still buy it, whatever we decide. You can, if you've got the agreements, you can do that.
Yeah, I think
Can-
we're.
can
wait,
somebody-
Wait,
Wait.
excuse me.
Uh-huh.
I think we're way off
way
the
off
subject.
base.
Mr. Johnson, do you have
We got a
something?
case in front of us that we need to vote on.
Right. You have any questions?
No.
Any other questions for the speaker?
Can I ask one question? If they're going to
not-
develop 9A and 9B, where are the entrances going to be off of Central?
Agent can answer that.
Oh, we'll ask the agent to speak to that when they come back up for rebuttal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker.
My name's Tom Thompson. I live at 1710 North Parkdale. I'm only here to speak on 9C, and I guess that I am opposed to the zoning change going from, as I understand it now, able to build duplexes to possibly apartment buildings. I'm opposed to that. I don't understand how you could put very many apartments on less than 3 acres plus a parking lot. The flood zone, the guy talked about the flood zone earlier. I lived in a 500-year floodplain during '98, and it flooded. So moving dirt here and there and changing the natural slope, I'm definitely opposed to. Also, I don't, as Nancy spoke, where the access to 9C would be, but there are 2 drainage ditches leaving Shade Lane going down to that big slough off of Shade down into the 9C area. So you're going to have to adjust for that water change. There's also utilities in there, as you've seen in the pictures, overhead and underground. And there was not a screenshot of 9C. I assume probably because it's such a small area. And other than that, just all the the nature views that they've talked about with the deer and the rats, beavers, not rats, but beavers. And of course, the lovely snake that shows up. Other than that, I really don't have anything else to say since it's already zoned for duplexes.
Any other questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Capri Kent, and I live at 6505 North 159th Street East in Benton, Kansas. I'm just going to read you what I have here so we don't take a lot of time, but approximately 18 years ago, I purchased 2 units in the Woodland Heights area, not because I wanted to be a landlord, but because I wanted to find someplace safe for my, I hate public speaking, people, but for my then younger boys, but they're now adults and have moved out on their own. But I've contacted realtors several times about selling these because I'm tired of being a landlord. I can't even get what I paid for out of these units. They did say that the unit, I own 6725 Shade units, 1402 and 1306. 1306 backs up to the big ditch. Every realtor I've talked to has told me that I have one of the best units in the entire complex because it backs up to the big ditch. And to the south, there's an empty space open on the south. And they've told me that it would sell much better than any of the units in there because I don't have anything backing up to me. They also told me that, well, as far as my renters, let's just go on to my renters now. That the renters that I've had in there, I've been very blessed to have them in there for 5 years. One of them that backs up to the big ditch has told me many times that the whole reason that they're there is because of the view. They'll sit out in the morning, watch the deer, watch the rabbits, watch the birds, all of the natural wildlife. And they said that the deer are going away because all of the different units that are being built in that area, all the wildlife is dying off. And as Nancy spoke, Woodland Heights is Woodland Heights, not urban living development. So we're really hoping that you guys, please, 9C, do something to where it just stays in its natural habitat. And as far as, I am also the director on the board, and we've had many of the owners of the units there contact us freaking out about what's going to happen. We've asked most of them if they could come in for the meeting, but they're working people, as all that we are too, but we had to take off work to come in and represent the homeowners. But so that's what I have to say. Any questions? Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm John Kendall. I own 4 units out there and have for over 20 years. Bought them at various times. I own 2 units that back up to Partial C.
Your address, sir?
Pardon? My personal address is 200 South Pershing Avenue, Wichita, Kansas. I own units 103, 301, 1105, and 1604. They're at 6725 West Shade Lane.
Thank you.
I was kind of surprised when I got the notice, because I always assumed that it was just the big ditch, because I know the city has always maintained it. You can see by the pictures that the present owner hasn't been keeping the grass mowed according to city code and city ordinance. The drainage issues have already been addressed by the previous speakers. I didn't know on this parcel of land, are there going to be retention detention requirements when they redevelop this? And how are the drainage issues going to be addressed? Again, there's been mention of the various new developments there lately. The large apartments, there's been 2 new apartment units built on the north side of Central, the duplexes directly across Shade Lane, and then some more retirement units there to the west off of Shade Lane. The traffic there is getting I worry about the added traffic congestion this development will add. And I just worry about the adverse effect on the neighborhood there in the Woodland Heights. Again, I oppose, especially on the partial, I believe it's partial C, changing it to multifamily. I would advise that it stays at duplex, the duplex zoning. And if I could, I have another letter from another homeowner I'd like to read. It's Pat Hammerzine, addressed to the Metropolitan Planning Area Commission, November 15, 2017. I'm writing this in regards to the case. I'm unable to attend the meeting. I would like to express my opposition to the rezoning of this area. I own 3 condos at Woodland Heights that will be directly affected by the proposed rezoning. I oppose this action for the following reasons. 1, my condos are rental properties. Part of the desirability to the renters is the balconies off the upstairs master bedroom and the windows on the lower level overlooking the peaceful view of the trees and the land. It doesn't even seem possible to build anything on the small piece of land that slopes into the big slough. 3, approaching the land from the north, there are 2 ditches running east and west that would have to be filled in to access the land to the south and possibly obstruct drainage. And I would certainly be opposed to anything as tall as 2 stories. I don't have a problem with the developers building in the area closer to Central, just don't develop anything behind the Woodland Heights properties. Again, that was regards Pat Hammerzine with PH Rentals, LLC.
Thank you, sir. Your time's up.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Next speaker. Okay, seeing no more speakers, rebuttal. Please address the questions that were asked if you remember them.
Mrs. Smith asked about the access to 9B, and you may suggest I comment on that. That access would be up here as a right-in, right-out only onto Central. So 9B would solely access Central and would not access Winterset. Yeah, if you look up here on the screen where the mouse cursor is, it's right up here.
Please, no comment from the audience.
The bridge would be right here. And then 9C would access shade or Winterset, whatever that is right there. I think the only other question that was pending was Mr. Kendall asked about detention, and because of its location in the big slough, detention would not be required on this particular tract of land. Be happy to answer any other questions.
Mr. Austin, a couple of 3 questions. I assume have you done a new survey on this property?
We did do a survey with the subdivision plat. It's required.
It looks to me that possibly the trees behind these units that people are talking about are actually on 9C as opposed to the Woodland Heights property. Do you know that? I'm just looking at an aerial photo that.
Yeah, the GIS that kind of splits it. The trees are, some are on their property and some of it's on 9C, so it depends on the tree, I guess.
The other question I would have, would you be willing to limit the height to 2 stories on the multifamily site?
I think that's a reasonable request.
Which would be in concert with the other properties that are right next door there.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It would make it more compatible.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Anything else for the? Okay, bring it back to the. We have another question for staff.
I'm just curious if duplexes were to be put on, what is it, 9C?
Yes.
About how many units could that land accommodate?
Well, it's 2.04 acres. So, and it's not subdivided into 6,000 square foot lots. So, I don't have anything to do math with.
If we could read the CUP, it would tell you, but I don't know if you can read it.
Well, let's see here.
The agent knows.
The agent knows. Would he please come forward and answer the question?
That's okay. On the current CUP, it's obviously it's zone TF, but it was for drainage way. But typically in land development, in my past experiences, TF3 we look at about 8.3 dwelling units to the acre. So under TF3, it would be roughly 17 dwelling units.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question for the commission. Since this has not gone to the DAB yet, is there any desire to defer this? I don't see any heads bobbing up yes and no. Only no.
No, but I will make a motion to approve.
Excuse me. Discussion, would you limit the height on that to 2 stories?
Yes, I'd be fine with limiting the height to 2 stories.
Second, agree with that? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries at 10-0. See. Can I adjourn? We're adjourned.